All right, artists, let's make some painted watercolor paper for our project. And so here's some things that you're gonna need for the tricks we're gonna try today. We're gonna need a couple pieces of paper. Of course, you don't have to do both of the ways that I show you, so if you only have one, but it's just so much fun that I would grab a couple and try a few of these. Okay, then you're gonna need your watercolors. Mine look probably a little different than yours, but your watercolor paints, a cup of water, a paintbrush, any size will work, a rag, and also for the different color or different kind of tricks we're gonna do, you're gonna want a little bit of table salt, not a lot, just a little bit, and something like a pan that you could put your paper into. You don't have to have this, but it just kind of helps with cleaning up. And some kitchen saran wrap. So most people have this, so if you do, you're gonna be able to try this cool trick. Okay, of course, if you only have crayons, if you only have markers, that is totally fine. You can, as we've done before, create a pattern or a colored paper with crayons and markers as well. But I'm gonna show you some watercolor tricks today for you to try. Okay, so what I'm gonna show you first, we've done this one before actually, is our salt tricks. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wake up the paints with some water. Good morning, watercolor paints. We are excited to use you today. Okay, so then I'm going to just create some color here on my paper. Now, it might help you, friends, if you lay something down. This is kind of my art desk, my art table. So I didn't put anything underneath my paper just because I kind of am okay with this table getting messy. But if you are on a workspace that you need to be a little bit more careful, then I would lay some towels or whatever you have around to protect it. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going here until I get this paper covered with paint, and then I'm gonna show you our next part of this. All right, artists, so now that I have my paper all painted, I want to make sure, so you probably want to, because it's a little bit hard to transfer this paper without ripping it. So if you want to paint inside to start with, inside your pan, that might be best. Okay, while your paper is still wet, that's really important. So if it looks like it's a little dry in places, just add a little bit more water. Be careful though, as you can see, I was washing my brush between the colors, right? We talked about that, because if I don't, the colors will mix. And some of the colors don't get along that well, remember, and so you might end up with some brown happening. So just be really careful to really wash your brush, and remember those colors that tend to get along best are the warm colors, you know, those colors that make us think of fire, sun, orange, red, and yellow. And then the other colors are cool colors. Green, blue, and purple tend to mix well together. Okay, so now my paper is pretty wet, so I'm gonna get my salt over here. Now the trick is, friends, we don't need a lot. I mean, I am taking here a tiny little pinch and I'm just barely sprinkling it on. The heavier or the more salt you put on the water, the more it's going to be a little difficult to brush it off, okay? And so I'm just barely taking any and sprinkling it on. And then I'm gonna set this aside to dry, and this is going to create a pretty cool effect on my paper. Okay, I'm gonna call that good, set it aside to dry, and then we're gonna go to our second trick. Okay, artists, so let's talk about trick number 2, which I love doing this one. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your plastic wrap here, and you are going to, and if you need a little bit of help with this, maybe mom or dad or an older brother or sister can kind of help you with this, but you're gonna pull off a piece of saran wrap that is about as big as your piece of paper. And you're gonna lay it down on a flat surface. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of use my hands here to press and flatten my plastic wrap. Okay, now, before I even reach for my paper, I'm going to get my water. You can see I changed my water so it's nice and clean now. And I'm going to put, it's like I'm painting water on top of the plastic wrap here. Not a ton, I don't need it sopping wet, just enough to pretty much cover it. Then I'm going to, it's like almost like I'm painting the plastic wrap. I'm gonna paint, and I think for this one, I'm just going to use my cool colors here. And I'm going to paint the plastic wrap. I know, it's so weird. Miss Einerson, what are you doing? But trust me, friends, it's gonna be super cool. Now, of course, plastic wrap is plastic wrap. It's not paper, so the paint is not really going to go on to plastic wrap like it would paper. It's gonna kind of make little pools of paint here. But that's actually what is going to give our paper a really cool effect on it. Okay, so just, you know, get about as much as you like on there, and make sure that it is on the way that you want. I'm gonna keep going because I really love these colors here. Okay, now, dun, 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 I'm going to get my paper and I am going to press it on like so, really gentle, because remember, this paper, when it gets wet, it wants to kind of rip, so just be very gentle. Then we're gonna flip it over. So take the plastic wrap, flip it over, and ooh la la, what a cool design. It almost looks like tie-dye, friends. That's what I think of when I look at this, okay? So you can kind of take your fingers and smoosh the paint around. I love that word, smoosh. And kind of spread it around as you want. But then when you're done, take the plastic wrap off. And there you have a beautiful, interesting pattern on your watercolor paper. So of course it's still going to be wet, so set it to dry, and let's check back when these are dried and see what they look like. Okay, artists, so let's take a look here. If we get really close to our salt paper, you can see that the salt did its magic and it absorbs some of that water, leaving a cool effect on the paper. So what we need to do, and it's gonna be hard for me to do it one-handed, but we're just gonna take our fingers and brush off that salt to leave behind that cool, almost coral-like texture, okay? So I'm gonna keep doing that. And then of course, if we look at our dried plastic wrap paper, we can still see that awesome kind of texture it left on the paper. So friends, have a lot of fun with this. Try different colors, different combinations. The most important thing for this one, for when we get ready to do our spring flower paper, is to really just fill up these painted papers with lots and lots of color. Because when we get ready to make our floral springtime paper, that painted paper is going to be amazing for it. All right, friends, have fun, and I can't wait to see what you come up with.